Good morning. Welcome to the Sunday meeting, the meeting in English, where we're going to be talking about this topic. It said is all. I always like to say it's an honor to be here, to be able to bring, like Susanna said, a study, to bring something that we can offer. And the theme today is a question: what have we offered? So it's a question that I want us all to have throughout this entire conversation here today, throughout this morning, where I will invite you to reflect on what is it that you have offered to others. What have you offered with your life, with your time? And the quote unquote inspiration, in a way, for this came from two things. Number one was this message that we find in the book Living Spring. This is a book psychographed by Chico Xavier through by the Spirit author Emmanuel, message 154, where it's titled "No One Lives Solely for Himself," which Emmanuel is going to use this quote that is from Paul. The Apostle Paul of Tarsus said this in this letter to the Romans 14, where he said, "No one lives solely for himself." So Emmanuel is going to come up with a message and an explanation of why that's the case and what is the responsibility associated with that. He's going to say whether we like it or not, and I always like to bring, for those who have not watched me talk yet, I always like to bring the source material on the top right and the exact quote from the book. Whether we like it or not, the law, with capital L, demands that our lives be connected to the lives of those around us. And I like that Emmanuel starts by saying whether we like it or not, meaning whether I agree that my life is connected to those around me or not, or whether I like that fact that I'm connected to everybody else around me, incarnate and discarnate, it is true. I don't need to like it. It is just something that happens and something that I must accept in order to change how I behave, in order to change how I feel, what I think, and how I act upon the lives of others as well. So he says, the law demands that our lives be connected to the lives of those around us. We can think as well that if we were meant to live by ourselves without anybody else, we wouldn't have the law of society. We would each have our own mountain, beach, cave, whatever it is that you like, and we would be by ourselves. We wouldn't need to withstand others, adjust to others, adjust ourselves to others. We wouldn't need any of that. But we are here for a reason. We have a society. So therefore, no one can live only for him or herself, because we're all interconnected. Emmanuel is going to also say that thousands of eyes, and I like that he used thousands of eyes watch your footsteps. Thousands listen to your voice, and thousands of hearts receive your encouragement to do good or to do evil. Thousands. He's not saying a handful. Emmanuel is very careful with his words, and we must think: why is he not saying handful or just a few people? He's saying thousands, because we affect the lives of thousands every single day, even if we think about it. Who knows how many people we're going to encounter in a day? Who knows how many people, incarnate and discarnate spirits, are going to be around us, watching us, listening to us, receiving our message, seeing our thoughts, receiving our sentiments for good or for evil. So he's saying it goes one way or the other, depending on the nature of that emission, depending on the nature of my thought that I'm directing to someone, or the types of thoughts that I'm cultivating in my mind. And thousands watch our footsteps. Joanna D'Angelis, the author that Susanna read here in the beginning, she says that you're always the example to someone, or something like that. Meaning, like, somebody's always watching you, and that's an example. That's an example for us to realize. And then in the same book, same author, Emmanuel, but in a different book, Words of Eternal Life, he's going to have this message, number 123, spiritual bread, and he's going to get this sentence that we find in John chapter 21, where Jesus is talking to Simon Peter in that very staple talk where he's asking if Simon Peter loves him, and he asks multiple times. And then after the third time, he says, so feed my sheep. That's what he said. And Emmanuel's going to have a beautiful message in this book where he's going to talk about, and relates very well with the first message that I showed from Living Spring, where he's saying that Jesus, and I put here he, as in Jesus, counts on your correct effort. So the meal of superior knowledge, remember the title of the message is Spiritual Bread. So the meal of superior knowledge is distributed with everyone, waiting though that the table of your attitude is neat and your word and of your word is clean. So he's waiting for us to feed the sheep. And Emmanuel is going to say he didn't ask Simon Peter to make the threads from the sheep to be turned into gold. He didn't ask for Simon Peter to get the what's it called, like the sound that sheep make. I forgot even in Portuguese the word for that. Ba, thank you. He didn't ask for that to be made into music, into a symphony. He didn't ask Simon Peter to do the impossible. He didn't ask him to do the extraordinary. He asked him simply to feed the sheep. Feed his sheep. Feed the herd. Bleat. Thank you. That is the name. Yeah. He didn't ask that. He didn't ask the bleeding into pieces of music. That's what Emmanuel is going to say. That's right. So he's not asking for much. In a way, he's not asking for much. But we know, of course, that it's very hard to do. But at the same time, it's something that it was entrusted to Simon Peter, but it's also entrusted to all of us. If we characterize ourselves as workers for Jesus, we must feed the sheep as well. We must accept when we're being fed as well with the knowledge, with the spiritual bread, with the spiritual nourishment. And then he's going to draw attention to the table of our attitudes, to our words. He's making, of course, the connection, the parallel between the table, the food, and of course our words, our attitudes. What is it that we're offering? This is what connects to the lecture. What is it that we're offering with our words, with our attitudes? What type of table are we setting for others? What type of food are we offering? Obviously, we have free will, and interestingly, we have free will because once this free will is reached, Emmanuel is going to say, the reason by a test of self-hardness, the Spirit is called to free will as the Son of the Creator who came of age in creation. So he's saying here, this is message 120. He's saying here that we have this free will. Therefore, when we're talking about what have we offered, what are we offering? We can even change the verb tense there. What are we offering every single day with every single thought, with every single word, with every single action? We have the free will to choose that. And that's a beautiful thing. We have complete control of what we're offering. We have complete control of how we're setting our table to others. But he's saying that this free will is an instrument that we achieve once we reach this mature, quote unquote, mature age. That's almost like a teenager because we still have so much to grow in light of the full plenitude of the Spirit that we will one day reach. But the free will that we have is going to be our instrument into regarding what we decide that we will be offering, because we're always offering something. He also says, reflect therefore on the intimate and personal freedom at hand to do good, broadly, unlimited, constantly. Meaning to do the good every single time, constantly, unlimitedly, broadly, meaning to everyone, not just for those that we like, not just for those that come to the Spiritist Center here, not just for those that we know, not just for those in our family or friends, but broadly, to every single one, to every single human out there. That's why we're in a law. That's why we have the law of society, and we have the free will to, like he's saying here, on the intimate and personal freedom at hand. We have that, so we must use that in our favor and the favor of others as well, to do good. In the Spirit's book, and this is question 573, he's gonna ask the spirits, in what does the mission of incarnated spirits consist? Actually consist. So they're gonna say in instructing men and aiding their advancement and in ameliorating their institutions by, and I put in bold here, direct material means. So when we're talking about that, we are the example to a lot of people. Thousands watch our steps. We have the free will to choose what we're offering. And we're offering at every single moment that we're here with our thoughts, with our words, with our actions. We have to fall into duty and mission. What is it, our duty and mission as human beings? Not necessarily profession wise, but like as human beings in this planet, in this moment, not only of our lifetimes, our evolution, but the evolution of the planet. In instructing men and aiding their advancement. And they're going to say, it's interesting because they say, ameliorating their institutions by direct material means. Direct, not indirect, direct material means. But we're talking about the spirit. Why are they mentioning material means? Because in the state that we are, we're still very much attached to the matter. We still need matter. We still need this body here, so a spirit can inhabit for a limited time. We still need nourishment, material nourishment, so in order for this body to continue to exist in this lifetime, etc., etc. We still need the material aspect. We cannot just think that this is a planet where only the spirits and there's no matter, or there are matters in ways that we don't even know, because there are planets out there with matter, types of matter that we don't even know yet. But we have, and I always like to say this, as we evolve, the spirit is going to be even stronger than the matter. We're going to have an even greater influence. If we go back to primitive worlds, the matter is still much dominates. And as the name says, primitive world, everything is still in a state of infancy of the spirit. But we're in trials and atonements, going to the world of regeneration. Therefore, there is this shift into the spirit having more influence over matter, but the matter is still here. We still need matter. So when they're saying ameliorating institutions of men, of humans, by direct means and material means as well, they're saying that we have this opportunity and this duty, this mission to ameliorate things and people around us through direct, meaning not indirect, direct, and material means as well. And in the question, a few questions later, 675, they're going to ask, ought we understand labor only for occupations of material nature? And that's interesting. Labor. So when we're talking about labor, we usually tend to think of a monetary transaction in a way. So I work and somebody pays me and I buy things, and then I work and somebody pays me and I buy things. So like, is that what labor is? Only that? Things that we get something in return, usually money? And they're going to say no. The spirit labors like the body. I love this sentence from the spirits. They say, every sort of useful occupation is a labor. So every sort of useful occupation is a labor. That in itself, thinking that useful occupations are labor, irrespective of whether we're going to be receiving some monetary compensation for that, opens our minds to, again, the question, what have we offered? What type of labor, unpaid labor, are we also offering, and have we offered throughout our days, throughout the months, the years, our lives? Because the spirit labors just like the body. We can go even further and think that a third of your lives and my life, the incarnate ones, 1/3 we spend in the spirit world. We spend sleeping. What is the spirit doing there? The spirit can also be laboring while it's sleeping. So the body is there, the material aspect is there, asleep, but the spirit is laboring. Think of the spirit as center. When we're talking about, everything here is clean. We have the chairs, we have the lights, we have all those things that people are doing it out of their hearts. It is labor as well. Setting the lights, the microphone, turning this on, all of those things. This is labor too. So every sort of useful occupation is labor. I love that sentence, and it really opens the mind to helping the homeless, doing things that we're not necessarily getting anything from that, monetarily speaking, but it's also a labor. It's also mission. It also has to do with duty. And that's the next one. Duty. We're talking mission. We're talking duty as humans. Same way that Jesus told Simon Peter, feed my sheep. So that's the mission. That's the duty. Feed my sheep. If you love me, feed my sheep. So in the gospel, according to Spiritism, they're going to say that duty is a moral obligation, firstly to ourselves and then to others. Duty is a law of life encountered in the smallest details as well as in the most elevated acts. Moral obligation. So I underline and bold a few things there. Moral obligation. So we talk in Spiritist lectures, in study groups, and all of that about moral development. Duty is this moral obligation, firstly to ourselves, meaning we are responsible for ourselves. We have a duty towards ourselves because we are here not by accident. We are here not just to have fun and just to enjoy life, and it's not a summer camp. We have a duty. As incarnate spirits, we have a duty. Firstly to ourselves, they're going to say, and then to others. Alluding once again to what Paul said, no one lives solely for himself. So when we're offering things, when we're offering our time, our thoughts, our words, our sentiments, we have to remember that there are others and we're offering it to others as well. But we have a duty to ourselves. We have a duty to take care of ourselves. I mentioned the body. The body is an instrument. If I misuse an instrument that was granted to me, awarded to me, or lent, that's perhaps the better verb, lent to me by God temporarily, I'm going to have to later on have the consequences, suffer the consequences for that. Because you have an instrument that is a precious instrument in a precious moment in your evolution. And if you throw that out or throw that away, the opportunity, you're going to have to answer to that. So we have this duty to ourselves to morally improve and also to others. Because remember, we don't live by ourselves. We don't live alone. Our lives are interconnected invariably with the lives of others. So we have our duty to ourselves and we have the duty to others. And they also say that duty is a practical summary, also in the Gospel according to Spiritism, of all moral speculation. It says that it is the bravery of the soul which faces the anguishes of battle. So it's almost like something like honorable, this duty that I have. So when we incarnate here, we incarnate with a lot of different plans. I'm going to do this. I'm going to improve that. I'm going to make amends with that person. I'm going to work on pride and selfishness. I'm going to work on this and that. We have this, we embrace this duty that we have along with the mission, which are different things, and then we incarnate. And that's when the trial really starts, because planning is beautiful. Planning is easy to a certain extent, but it's when we come here that everything becomes way harder. And then we're faced with those around us that we need to be with, because nobody is in the wrong address, as Chico Xavier used to say, in the reincarnation, nobody is sent to the wrong address. But that's when we have to remember the moral obligation to ourselves and to others as this duty, and remembering what is it that I'm giving, what is it that I'm offering. Emmanuel is also going to say that this is in our hands. We talked about free will. Free will gives us the opportunity to do that, to do exactly what we want, and then we face the consequences, good or bad. So I translated this message here. It says, as it is easy to observe you are on earth with a soul conditioned by the laws of space and time according to the imperative of self-improvement in which we all find ourselves in the physical world or outside of it, but always with vast possibilities of doing good and extending it to others. Because improving and elevating ourselves, educating ourselves, and above all, serving are always precious measures, invariably in our own hands. In our own hands. And it's a long message, but I didn't want, I tried cutting it, but I like it too much, the full paragraph, so I wanted to bring the full paragraph. Because he's saying once again that we have vast possibilities, vast opportunities to do good and extend this good to others. Duty to myself, but duty to everybody else as well. So the possibility that I have through my free will is the choice, but I have vast possibilities to do good, both for myself and for others. We all come here with talents. And I'm using the word talents as we have in the parable of the talents, remembering that the servants, one got 5 talents, the master was going to go away, one got 5 talents, which are units of measure, monetary measure in that time that were very, very large. So imagine somebody's entrusting you with a large sum of money, and then the other person also a large sum of money, and then the third one also, let's say, a large sum of money. Two of them make that money grow, those talents grow. So when the master comes back, he's very happy, and he's saying, if you're faithful in the little, I can trust you with more. But the third one, the third servant, what did he do? He buried his talent. He buried the sum of money because he was afraid of what to do with it. So when the master came back, he was still with that same 1 talent that he was entrusted with. He had opportunities to do good. He had opportunities to make that talent grow, just like the other two. One that got 5 made it into 10. The other one got 2, made it 4. But the one that got 1 was so scared, and then he hid his talent. And afterwards, the master was not very happy with him. So we have to think to ourselves, what are we offering? What are our talents, with capital T and small t we can even think about, because we have sets of skills and we have a uniqueness about us that each person can contribute in their own unique way to someone else's life, to improving someone else's life. What is it that we're doing with our time here? What is it that we're doing? What is it that we're offering with the time that we have and with the talents at our disposal, with the resources at our disposal? What is it that we're doing? To fulfill our mission, Emmanuel is going to say, we don't need a leadership position, a brilliant platform, an illustrious name, or a fortune worth millions. We don't need all these magnificent things to do good, to fulfill our mission, he's saying. We simply need to value discipline in our proper place with the pleasure of serving. We value this. Emmanuel was all about discipline, discipline, discipline. We simply need to value the discipline in our proper place, meaning where we are and with what we have available to offer others, with the pleasure of serving. Remembering the words, feed my sheep, not go feed yourself. It didn't say go feed yourself, go eat by yourself. No, feed my sheep. That is something that has to do with other people. So we don't need all those, like I said, magnificent things, all those great things. And I think that a lot of the times we wait for perfect opportunities or perfect moments or moments that will never come. Oh, when I have X amount in my bank account, then I can start donating some. Or when I have X hours in my time free, then I can start going to charity. When I have this, forget about that. Because one, that day may never come. And two, guarantee that when that day comes, something else is going to get in the way. So we don't need to wait for those moments or those states. We can do good with what we have right now, in our place, with the pleasure of service, with the discipline, because it does take discipline. And it's hard, but we can do it. We can do it. And then in this other message 108, that says nobody lives, by themselves or on their own, he's going to say, we do not have the means to analyze the extent of our influence, but we can examine its essential quality. Thus, be careful about the invisible nourishment that you are feeding the lives around you, because the forces that are exteriorized by our activities today will return to the center of our activities tomorrow. We reap what we sow. That's basically what he's saying here. If we do good, we're reaping goodness. But if we're spreading gossip, evil actions, whatever we can think of, greed, prideful actions, that's what we're going to reap. But he's saying, we do not have the means to analyze the extent, meaning whatever I'm offering to others, again, incarnate or discarnate spirits, I don't have the means to analyze the extent of that distribution, let's call it, of what I'm actually offering. But I have the ability to examine the quality. What is it that I'm offering? Am I offering a word of praise, but with a sentiment of envy behind that? Am I offering a word of kindness truly because I mean that? Is the essential quality, and we cannot measure the extent that our actions are going to have in other people. We cannot measure how much people are going to be changed by what we are offering, but we can measure and we can control what and how we're offering it. The essential quality. And he says invisible nourishment, because our thoughts are nourishment for others as well. What we think can transform, destroy, modulate, mediate. It's a very, very powerful tool that is affecting everyone around us. Everyone, and I mean everyone. That's the invisible nourishment. And André Luiz, interestingly, he has a message that he talks about the neighbor's pharmacy. Look at the analogy he's going to make. We are an integral part of our neighbor's pharmacy. And somebody's going to say, pharmacy mean like medication? Yeah. Observe the reactions your presence provokes in others and pacify those you interact with, not only through words, but also through appearance and actions, because with mere proximity, we act as a reassuring or stimulating force for those around us. And then he continues to say, to give examples of medications. So the question is, what type of medication are we to the next person's pharmacy? Are we a benzodiazepine, or are we ecstasy? What are we? How are we leaving the other person when they interact with us? What type of medication are we? I thought that was an interesting creative analogy that he made here, André Luiz, where we can think of that if we're offering something at all times to everyone around us, what is it that we're offering? And we can measure their reactions to realize how do people leave after they talk with us, after they interact with us? What sort of sentiments do they carry? What sort of impressions do they carry after they interact with us? That's going to tell us what type of medication we are. And I guess we can say we change depending on the day as well. Some days we're more like one, and some days we may be more like other. And then I wanted to bring also this one Luke chapter 21, this passage where talking about offering things is also material things. There's that moment where the widow is going there, and I wanted to put the exact passage here. As Jesus looked up, he saw the rich putting their gifts into the temple treasury. He also saw a poor widow put in 2 very small copper coins. And then he turned to the disciples and he said something that surely made them pause and think. Truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave their gifts out of their wealth, and a lot of them for show as well. We can even infer here. But she, out of her poverty, put in all she had to live on. She offered, remember, we're using the word offering or offer in a very broad way. She offered all that she had, basically. She offered way more than others. But if we look to these things with the material eyes, we're going to see that she offered nothing compared to the others. In a time where they believed that the more I offer, the more I'm going to have the favor of my God, she offered only 2 copper coins. Now, surely she's not going to be heard. But that's not what it is about at all. So Jesus was very good in pointing that out to them and saying the relative. Remember we talked about the essential quality? The essential quality of those 2 copper coins versus a lot of those people who were putting golden coins and treasures way more valuable than 2 copper coins was very different. So it's something for us to think about as well. Have we offered only what we have in excess? If we think about material means now, let's say time as well. Have we only offered when we have a lot of time in our hands? Have we only offered when we have a lot of money in our hands? Have we only offered when you have a lot of clothes in our wardrobe that we can't even see anymore? Well, now I have to donate. Are we only offering in excess what we have in excess? Are we waiting for that moment? Again, each person is going to have their own answer, but that's something I want us to think. Or are we offering what Jesus said about, when Jesus said about the water, of the spirits, the true water, the one that if you drink, you'll not be thirsty. And I wanted to bring this passage because I do think it's a beautiful passage that we find in John chapter 4, where Jesus was there at the well, and this woman from Samaria, a Samaritan woman, she comes, sorry, and she's going to grab water from the well, and then Jesus says, "Give me water." And then she looks at him. Amelia Rodriguez, in the book Preludes to the Divine Kingdom, she has a passage on this that's beautiful because Amelia writes so beautifully. But then Jesus, she's like, "You were a Jew and I'm a Samaritan woman," she says. "No, why are you talking to me? Why are you asking me for a drink?" Because they didn't like each other, those two people. And also, Amelia is going to add even that you wouldn't address a woman in public, the culture of that time. So he, a stranger, was addressing a woman, a Samaritan woman, in public. For her, it was like, "What are you doing?" And she didn't like it at all. And he was asking her for water. And then he answered her, "If you knew the gift of God and who it is that asks you for a drink, you would have asked him and he would have given you the living water." So interesting how Jesus kind of switched it. Like if you knew who was asking you and what, you would be the one asking for it. But the woman she still didn't understand. And she was like, "Sir, you're talking about water, but like you have nothing to grab the water from the well. You don't have a bucket because he didn't have a bucket with him. He didn't have anything." So she's like, "You don't have anything to grab the water with." And then he tells her, and she says, "Where can you get this living water?" Because she was still not making the connection. So she's like, "Where can you get this living water?" And then Jesus continues to talk to her, and he says, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again." He's saying the water of the well, the physical one. "But whoever drinks the water I give them will never thirst. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water welling up to the eternal life." And then she pays more attention to him, to what he was offering her. And then she's like, "Okay, sir, give me the water. I want to drink this water you're talking about." And then he says, go fetch your husband then. Go grab your husband. And she's like, "Sir, I have no husband." And he's like, "You said it right. Because you had 5 husbands, and the one you have now is not your husband." So that's Jesus. And then at that moment, she's like, "Okay, you're a prophet. Like, please help me." And then she switches completely her attitude because he was saying things that nobody wouldn't be able to know. A stranger would never be able to know. And then they have this beautiful conversation. And then it made me think, especially for the offering, what is it that we're offering people? What is it that we're offering those around us? Are we offering only the material needs or only the material things that will vanish? Or are we trying to offer something more, something that will stay? He talked about the living water. And like I mentioned already, the passage of the talents of the parable, that's also the parable of the talents. That's also something when we can think, and I wanted to bring also the exact quote when he said, his master said to him, "For those who are able to multiply their talents, well done, good and faithful servant. You have been faithful over a little, I will set you over much. Enter into the joy of your master." Meaning those who utilize well, those who offered well as well, because they had those things in their possession for a limited time. And this is a beautiful thing that in the parable that may go unnoticed. The master didn't leave forever. He left, and he was meant to return. He left for a moment, and he was meant to return. Just like we, with everything that we have at our disposal here right now, we're going to have, when we return, we're going to be asked, what did you do with the talents that you were entrusted with? Did you bury them? Did you try to offer them to others to multiply them? So the question also, I told you, is going to be a lot of reflections. To whom have we offered? To whom have we offered? Talking about what we have offered, how we have offered, when we have offered, but to whom have we offered? And the idea for this part came from also this passage that we find in Luke chapter 14, where Jesus said, But when you give a feast, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, the blind, and you will be blessed because they cannot repay you. So he's saying when you're inviting them for a feast, of course he was referring to the material feast, but also not really just the material feast if we think about it. Let's offer it to those that cannot pay us back, because that is the true essence of it. When we offer something that we know the other person is not going to be able to repay that act of kindness, to repay what we have offered and we did with our hearts, not expecting anything in return. Because a lot of the times we do expect something in return, even if it's like, oh, thank you. Even if it's a small gesture of appreciation. But he's saying offer it to those who need, not only your friends, not only those around you, your family, those you like, those who agree with your ideas. Offer it to everyone. And then he mentioned a few of the physical ailments that people can have. So offer to those, because those won't be able to repay you. And you'll be blessed, he's saying. Why? Because then if you do that, the essence of your offering will be unquestionable. Because you did it out of your heart, because you knew they couldn't repay you. Even though they couldn't repay you, still did it anyways. So to whom have we offered? That's the other question for us to think about. It is more blessed to give than to receive. And this is kind of like a message that I want us all to have. This is in Acts chapter 20. When we're always seeing that even in the small gestures of kindness, even in a look, in a hug, in a word of encouragement, or when we give something to someone, a material, whatever it may be, or our time, it is always more blessed to give than to receive. Outside of charity, there's no salvation, we learn in Spiritism. And it's interesting because even if we take it to a more biological level, we have studies showing how our brain reacts in a way that's even more, when we do something good, when doing charity or something like that, our brain reacts in a way that's even more positive than if we were receiving money. Like we have mirror neurons, we have a lot of things in our bodies that are so interesting that they go hand in hand with the spirit piece, that when we're giving something, he's saying more blessed, but we're feeling better than when we're receiving. When we give something out of our heart, it feels so good, and there's a reason for that. That's why we have inside of us, in us, not inside, in us, this potential to be perfect, because we're all going to be perfect one day, billions of years, yes, but one day. We all have that driving us, and there is no way that we're going to get there without learning to give, learning to offer with the essence in the right place, with the right essence. So to close here, I just wanted to bring some of the reflections that I was asking throughout the talk for each one of you to take home and reflect, so we can apply the teachings here. It's not just about, oh, that was a nice message. No. How can I apply outside? What type of nourishment have we offered? In what way are we offering? How is our table of attitudes and the cleanliness of our words? Remember what we heard? How is our table of attitudes and the cleanliness of our words? To whom have we offered? Have we consciously offered or only unconsciously? And I put this one in a way of saying, am I just doing these things because I have to, or even like my thoughts, I'm offering thoughts unconsciously, like without realizing that I'm doing, or am I putting the intention and the thought behind that and offering consciously, meaning consciously and with purpose, offering something to someone, even if it's just a thought, even if it's just a prayer. When I'm praying to someone, I'm doing that consciously. But if I'm just going in an automated way, and like on autopilot, my thoughts are going to be like the boat, like in the waves, just like whoop, whoop, going according to what's happening around me. But am I consciously offering things? Are we letting external factors influence what, how much, or to whom we offer? It's perhaps the last thing that we can think about. How much are we letting these other factors, external factors I put, influence how, to whom we offer, when we offer, in what way we offer, how much we offer? Am I letting other people's opinions of me dictate how am I offering, to whom am I offering? Questions for us to all think about so we can get out of here, go on with our lives, because we're only here for 1 hour of the week, basically, with the talk, but to apply these things outside. To apply these things as we go home, as we live our days, as we go to our jobs. Have these things because no one lives solely for himself. Much peace and light. Thank you.